Ta-da! And welcome to Joseph's Model Railway and Toy Room. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, a little bit of housekeeping. You don't need to like, follow, or subscribe. I just put the videos out there where I can and have a holly jolly great time doing so. Now, today's video, it's a little bit of an interesting one because it's far from anything I thought I'd ever be doing. But as you'll recall, we did our forest section and we put this bridge in, and I was very big about the bridge needed to still be able to move so we can access the module out and do things like that. But the road that we made, this beautiful dirt track, needed to link onto the bridge, and I wasn't happy with just leaving it the way it is. So today, what's behind that magnificent tree, you ask? Well, join me today and see my techniques for what I did to create a little bit of synergy to this dirt road and to the bridge. Just a couple of quick things to make mention, of course, in this video. The blue tape that we're always seeing at the moment, of course, that's just painter's tape that will be coming off toward the end. We're just leaving it there at the moment until we've finished landscaping this side. You can probably just see here, it looks like, oh, he's been busy with something. No, that is just the module that sits behind me actually as we link over to the coastal scene, because we're now starting to work on that. That section has just been removed as we're starting to do a bit of landscaping over there. Again, just using this particular ensemble of wagons and a locomotive just for the finishing shots, of course, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with what we've come up with in today's video.
Of course, a bit of homework and preparation that always goes into it. The original inspiration photo, of course. Now let's just have a quick look at what some other people did on top of their bridges and the alike, just to get a bit of an idea on what they're doing. And it's just enough to give me an idea of what I'm trying to do, and it's the color scheme I'm really trying to go for in that original picture. You'll notice the road is that kind of red color, so let us get stuck into it.
Well, here we are, and we have the bridge, and for the most part we've done quite well with the forest, the lower section, and our bridge. And while we have the end of the cabinet work just finishing here, clearly the road isn't going to go anywhere physical per se. So we do need to come to an end with it. However, the key thing is just taking back to that original scene that's driving the inspiration for this. What we're going to need to do is we're going to need to have a bit of a road and a bit of a footpath section. I didn't want to go into too much detail about this. If we actually look carefully at that picture, you'll notice they've done sort of almost like a red clay earth type of texture to it. So, all right, we might just work on that. But I was thinking about, I don't know about cobblestones per se, but I wanted to add a bit of texture to the road. And I did want to create that bit of a raised footpath, sort of what we did do over where the War Memorial is, but maybe trying a slightly different approach than using the Woodland Scenics Smooth It range. So I thought we'd go back to using our foam. Now the one I have at the moment, and as we've discussed regarding the portals, I'm really not a huge fan of, is the Woodland Scenics subterranean foam. And it's not too bad, it's a fair type of price. And it is the one we can work with. The downside is it's quite a bit stiffer. It's not the sort of high density one like the flower box type of foam that florists use that can easily be manipulated. Like I really have to stick my finger in and it's not really leaving much of an indentation. And if it is, it's on a pretty broad scale. So not ideal. However, for this particular application, maybe it might just do the job. So what I did was we snipped the length out. In fact, here it is, and it's what we're going to use for the actual road bed itself. Now, of course, I did do a few rudimentary calculations. Now, of course, as we're coming, the entrance from here into the bridge is a little high. I'm not going to worry too much about correcting it. It's just one of those anomalies that shall be, and we'll try and add some tree or fencing that makes it look a little safer. Otherwise, you're literally coming straight off and could be a disaster. We'll make that work, but we'll slope that down and we'll deal with that as we get to it. The point is, with this sitting in here, it gives us a little bit of a base to carve or etch or just get some scenery into it. Next, we're going to need a bit of a footpath. And we're going to show some images here of, as you've seen me use previously, the hot foam wire cutter, but the tabletop version, which is a bit like having a table saw. We've got a magnificent straight line to work on, and we can cut magnificent and accurate foam cuts that are absolutely just, I don't think you could get any better even if you tried. Now, as I said in an earlier video, we're going to go back and have a chat about that particular foam wire cutter, not even with any specific project, but just because it's probably now turned out to be one of my most imperative model making tools, along with my fine needle nose tweezers, or indeed, as I'm always banging on about, baking paper, my greatest tool in this room that I think is always underappreciated. But so much so that, you know, when it comes to trimming off a little end of something, or you need to get something that's cut wafer thin, and I've cut thinner than this, this is an astonishing tool. So we'll come back and talk about that later. But in the meantime, I've knocked up these. What have we got here? Well, I don't think we've really got room on the bridge to have 2 lanes of traffic. It's obviously just going to be one. So the focus is to have one lane for our vehicular traffic and another side for our footpath or pedestrian walk or sidewalk, depending on your country that you feel comfortable discussing. And that's basically what I've created. I've cut it out of 0.5 centimeter is the thickness I went with. And if we just slot this one in, remember the footpath, according to the picture, means we're going to want the footpath section to be here, which is on my left. And I could just leave it the way it is, but I did decide I think we should have an extra edge just on the other side, even though it's not encouraged, you should be walking on it. At least it's just it gives a little bit of definition to it. So we've just cut this thinner bit out. Now, I think this is going to work quite well. The reality is, and the way it was all cut, is that they'll probably come out a bit because we're going to work on creating a nicer segway. Remember, this section still needs to move. Remember, the bridge quite easily comes out, and we need to maintain a join system that's going to be smooth. So that's our approach today, and that's what we're going to get up with. So let's see what we can do to improve the top of this bridge and make it a little more believable. Right, we'll keep this one pretty quick and simple for you. It won't be like some of the other videos. You can see what I've done with the Woodland Scenics foam. Its original thickness is twice what this is. So by the time I've thinned it down to create that road bed, it's ridiculously thin. In fact, you can see where the score marks are starting to come through. So I didn't open the paving up as much as I want, and remembering half of it's going to be covered anyway with our footpath, and this which has snapped multiple times, as you can see, as we've been putting in the indentations for the concrete curb that's going to go in. But the additional step that we're just going to do also to the footpath as well here, stone from the garden. I mean, this is a tool everyone seems to talk about, and I feel like I should have done it in the previous ones. And all we're just going to do, and I'm sorry about the lighting and the camera angle, we're just going to roll that stone over it, press in, not too hard, just lightly. We just sort of want to get some indentation, a bit of definition, and a little bit of detail into it, especially just coming around onto those edges there, give it a bit more of a natural type of a look. The same thing with these two, the thin ones. I'll just do a little bit on that. I don't mind if they're a little bit sharper because they're not really being accessed, and they probably boxed it up to do a smooth pour. Right, so once we've got all of that excitement going on, what I'm going to do, which should help us a little bit, apply still the same leftover matte Mod Podge and a black acrylic mix that we've been using as a sealer. Now, if this container looks interesting and it's like, oh, it's still wet in there, and what is that container? You better believe it is a Woodland Scenics lighting box where the light module is out, and I've been reusing it, and we're still going here. Now, I'm just hoping, obviously, doing this will hopefully just add a little bit of extra stiffness to it just while we're painting it. That's all it needs to be, because once we've got those base colors painted, we're going to glue this together, sit it in its place,
and then weather it accordingly. So again, the process in painting this, I'm going to keep it down. I usually hold it, but it's just getting too fragile. We'll just lay it down, and the best tip is get that brush into the water first, then take some of your sealer and just get that stuff on there. There's no right or wrong. I think the only advice that I could probably give anyone that's watching this is, as you can see, I'm going left to right, and once I'm happy with that, I'm going to go up and down, because you can see with some of those openings, you've got to get in because we've opened it up like that. So again, water, Mod Podge. Again, just still on that same piece of baking paper at the moment, just so that because remember, it's not just paint, and while paint will create a bit of a stickiness, of course it is the Mod Podge as well, that is a glue that would want to hold it down. So we're just going to keep it nice and easy. I'm not too worried if there's still little bits of some flocking or stuff that comes along while we're doing this. That really doesn't matter. We don't have to be picture perfect in this scenario here. And you can see what happens as we're thinning it out and applying it. You can see the lightening of the white behind it. Now that's not a bad thing. Again, I like to, in retrospect for some of these, I would have preferred to have used white acrylic paint to give me a nice neutral canvas to work on. But speckling it like that isn't going to be too bad. We are going to go with a bit of a grey, albeit a slight bit of red, because I am going to still try and chase a little bit of that picture. I'm going to add a little bit more because we're literally going to leave this for some time to dry. You don't have to leave it long. Truthfully, a couple of hours, you'd probably be all right. Most of the time I leave all this stuff overnight as I carry on with other things, but there we go. I can already see this bit starting to separate already here. So as it's separating, we'll make sure we get some in there, and hopefully it'll come back together. We'll also just take our top bits here. Make sure I've got the right bit. Yes. Again, the blue tape you can see here on the cabinet work was always just there to protect it while we were building this section anyway, so it doesn't really serve a purpose. We'll get the resplendent red coming back into it. Again, a light coat, because I know that's going to be a lighter color, and again on the edge as well. So first of all, I noticed that obviously the road they've used is a sort of almost like a red dust or something. So I took some red rust, I dust over here. Again, all we've just got is the Mod Podge sealer so far on it, and then I tried a little bit of Vallejo burnt umber, and the results aren't too bad. In fact, it's quite good. I think the way to go is to probably use our burnt umber, but what I think will benefit is to get a bit of a base coat of something down that's suitable for that. So we're now going to just fiddle around with a few different colors. These are, I'm not sure which way we're going here, but this is what we're going to probably use for doing the actual footpath, which is just your typical stone grey, and I think we probably will go with stonewall grey or something like that, or mix these together, but these are the ones I think we're going to go for. So we're going to do a little bit of experimentation here. And then the other color I was thinking here was to probably go for that almost khaki type of yellow or something like that. So let's have a little bit of an experimentation. No, you haven't missed anything. Generally, as the paint is wet and then starts to dry, it'll generally cause things to sort of, what was straight, curl up a little bit. Now, because this is wafer thin, what I'm doing, I'm just gently weighting it down on either side to keep it open as well and minimize any of the paint sort of, not that there's that much there that can run any further down into our cracks at the moment. We sort of want to keep that the way it is. So nothing there. Now, we're looking over here, the paint for doing our footpath, sidewalk, walkway, what have you. So we've looked at them all. The surface primer one is a little bit brown in this application. It is good for other areas, but that's not going to cut it according to our picture here. The bluey grey, again, not too bad, but because of what we're trying to achieve, because we're going to have such a contrasting color, if this would have been kept a more neutral sandstone, the more yellow clay-based dusty road, yes, that would have worked well, but it's not. So we're literally just going to go with the Stonewall grey on that, which is this particular colour here. I did try mixing and blending a few, but I really think we've got to keep a pretty lighter contrast. So this will be our Stonewall grey from Vallejo, and this is just a little mini test pot ones, which I recommend because I get a good collection of colors and I really don't intend on doing a lot. And when I'm on a winner, well, I could just buy a bigger bottle, but this is the way to go, and that's what we're going to do. We're now going to paint the sidewalks. Now we're going to give it a light coat with the brush, and then maybe just dab the excess off. Again, I've got to be careful because, as we saw with the thin stuff, where I've made the mark any deeper and it's just going to keep snapping in half. But I think we're going to give it a full coat here, and then I can just apply texture with a powder once we've glued it and put it all together as needed. So here we go, let's see what happens. I'll cut the camera shortly, but it's very important that you identify which side is which. I can tell you this is the side that will be facing the road. So just don't forget to do your edges as well. That's the whole reason we haven't glued this together, is so we can get nice definition when we put it down. Welcome back. Well, you can see what's happened here. Gave it that bit of grey paint where you just left me. Then I took a little bit of DCC Concepts mid-grey. I dusted it on a bit. It's lightened it up. If anything, it's taken it a little shade wider. So then just came back over with this particular pastel. Now this color, I don't know what it is, but this type of grey is actually what I've dusted onto the walkway of the curved viaduct, and it really comes up nicely and contrasts well with the red, which is, of course, was that oxidized red I used on there, which is sort of similar to what this is by the time it's dried. So I think it's not going to be too bad. Again, we can add further texture as we carry on here. What I want to do now, though, is I do want to at least get a bit of a base dusting over using our Vallejo pigments. We're going to do the burnt umber. Let's just see where that goes for the minute. We're just going to lightly apply it. If we're getting the right color scheme we want, then we can glue it together, and we'll leave it at there for now. Now this particular end is probably going to be where we're going to have the overlap that comes off of that trail that I've made there with the dirt road. So it's not going to hurt if we play around a bit here. And see, it's not too bad. The interesting thing doing this type of approach is you can still see those gnarly bubbles that are still in that type of styrofoam. As I've said, I'm really not a big fan of that one at all from Woodland Scenics, but it's what we have. I have managed to acquire some AK stuff coming in at the moment. That's not going to help us for this project, and it doesn't need to. Remember, we're just trying to buy a little bit of height from the side walls of the actual bridge, so we're going to do what we can. But we do need to come up slightly lighter, so as a result, I believe we might try this one. It's getting closer. Might need a touch of white or yellow in it, but how about we find a knife and take a little sample of that. This might be a bit too bright. Let's clean that brush up there. Using this as the darker one and then the lighter one. Now it might look a bit strange, particularly on the camera and these lights, but that shade of almost like an orangey red is pretty much what I'm getting. It's still not quite white enough. It's almost a pink I'm chasing. Here's what I've got available at present. So if we can just try. Let's sprinkle a little bit of that on. It's not usually what I'm doing. I actually have a separate thing I decant my pastels into for mixing up, but we're just having some fun here. Of course, now I've sort of ruined that section, haven't I? Gonna need a bit more. Sometimes, and the thing I'm not very good with these color selections is that sometimes you, like you saw with the portal there, you need to be a bit bold with some colors, and even though you panic it in the moment, once it comes together, it's not as bad as you think.
That's not bad. It's pretty light. It's about as good as we're gonna get. I'm still tempted to take this one and this one. Let's just blend a couple together and see what that gives us. This is definitely the one we need to go for. That's about as close as I'm going to get it based on what it is. I could probably mix just a few bits of white. Let's lay it down as a base color, and then we can come back and correct it as we go. Right, I'm pretty happy with this. I sort of kept the middle in the lighter one because the cars are obviously going to travel over in the straight line, and dusted it with the wheel tracks, which we'll still have to blend as we come in off the other one, which is using that more sort of almost a lighter whitey yellow type of color. Now, we're going to need to attach these sides down, which is always a fun project, isn't it? We definitely want to try and get this right. Now, this might be a bit extreme, but we might just do each section as we go. Now, the thing with this Gorilla Glue, which a lot of people don't sort of pay attention to, it's a glue, you put it on. It is an important step to damp it, glue it, and then clamp it. A lot of people skip it. Look, it works quite well without it, but there's a reason they're saying to wet that area down where possible. So we'll just take a little bit of water. Now, we better make sure we're on the right angle for how this works. Yep. So we're just going to do one side at a time. And that's a top tip, isn't it? You really need to be doing your modeling away from the actual thing so you don't make disastrous mistakes like that. But as I said, I'm not sitting down. It is the best way to do it, but here we are. All right, we're going to get some glue. We really want to make sure we're just literally going to get the small little trickle out of it. Remember, a little goes a long way. Some of that out. Again, this is where it's going to start. So what I think we're going to do here, as extreme as this will probably look to all of you, even though a peg is hardly going to make much of a dent in this material, it's quite a stiff one, I think it's still worthy to do it. We're going to focus our energy toward the end to make sure it grabs down nicely. Remember, a little in is better than a little out. And we've got the arc of the bridge anyway, so that's certainly not going to hurt us at all. If it's got a little bit of a bend in it, that'll be that I'm not sure about. This is going to be a lot more complicated because it's come apart so many times. I've truthfully forgotten what order it all went in, but let's try our best. Okay, well, here we are, all clamped in and looking nicely. Oops, could have scripted that better if I tried, could I? Where'd the peg go? Here he is. Sorry, clothes pins as some other countries may refer to these. It's okay. Interesting, it's getting that natural curvature going anyway. I don't want it to get too severe. So as we're getting ready to clean ourselves up and leave this for the period now, I think we're going to find a spot to put it. And the weight of the pegs should take the load off. So we leave that now for 24 hours. We're going to clean up this space now because we've got to get started with the next project. Okay, well that's been some 36 hours or something like that for our glue to dry. So let's take these pegs off and see what we've ended up with exactly. Oh, let's go back and fix that up. And that one stayed down nicely. It's
maybe not even too bad. That might be where the bicycle or something's sitting anyway, so I'm really not going to take too much away from that. It's not too bad. Probably going to have to blend in a little bit here where the road meets that paving just slightly. But that's not too bad considering how thin this needs to be. Remember, we've basically, really, we have nothing we're working on here. But let's go see what it looks like when we slot it into the bridge. Oh, you all know me far too well. It's not good enough. We're not going over there yet. I'm not happy. Let's get our pop sticks out of the way. Get them back to the laundry. So we're just running a little bit of diluted PVA down into the gutters on either side. And we're going to chuck a couple of stones in. And once again, the ones of choice are just the ones that come with the Woodland Scenics road base system for the dirt roads, which is a very, very fine, sandy white, slightly brown, talus almost material, we could call it, couldn't we? Okay, minor disasters alleviated. Everything looks good. Spilt quite a bit of glue all over this section. Once again, you shouldn't be doing your models here, do them elsewhere. But again, I'm different. So we've put a few, just put a few little crushed up leaves across here from where the tree would be sitting. We'll probably tidy that up more in the final sort of scene. And we've just come down and we've got a little bit of that road spread there. And what I thought we might just do is we might take a little bit of Pico brake dust and see if we can just brush it onto some of those loose bits of gravel or stone there to help it blend in a bit, because that doesn't look right at all. Let's get a brush. Now we're going to need a brush. Something a bit more on the lighter and fluffier side would be the better way to go. And we don't want something too stiff and we don't want to get too carried away here. So we'll put a little bit of the dust on here. Loosen it up a bit in the lid there. And all we're just trying to do is break down a little bit of that so it's not so white. I don't know if this is going to work. There we go. That's better. That's what I was trying to do. And we're also just adding texture to that side part of the pavement as well. I'd like to build it up with a little bit of that kind of a scungy bit where the sun doesn't get to it and the moisture constantly sits, but I just don't think we're going to need to do that. So again, we're just brushing in, and let me just bring you in nice and close on a section that we're doing now so you can really see what I'm up to. So it's just here, and the whole idea is we're bringing some of that dust over. And you can see that sort of just bleeds that colour in a little more realistically than as opposed to where we're seeing this almost a white, but this looks like it was supposed to be there. And there you have it. This is pretty much what we've got. And I'm quite happy with how that looks. So let's put it into, let's go put it into place now and have a look how that's going to look for us. Now, the maiden voyage to see how this is going to work out. So here she is. Let's slide him in. Who knows, with all this gluing and mucking around, is it even still going to fit? Well, that's not too bad. I think the temptation was I'm actually going to be bringing it out and sitting it here knowing that this is where it's going to be. Now, it's not staying down at the moment. We might just take a quick pin. There we go. Now, I don't think that's all too bad considering. Really needs a person here and a bicycle. And let's have a look. The more I'm looking at things up here, I think basically the easiest way to get out of this, remembering I still want all of this to move, so I don't want it to be glued up and joined. I think we're going to take some more of our foam that we've been using, and I dare say I'm going to have just the right offcut to shape into place, give it a lick of paint, a bit of a brown, dust those track marks and create a bit of a blend there. And I think we've really got something that's going to work quite nicely. And you know what? I don't even think I'm going to end up gluing the roadbed down. It does sit here quite naturally. Again, we also have to paint this bit of foam as well. So we're sort of going to do these two in two sections, just doing the exact same process. I'll keep reusing that black Mod Podge sealer that I've got, and we'll come up with something there. So just back to the cutter, and we're just snipping up a few little pieces of foam. And you can sort of see measurements that I'm sort of doing as I gently just go backwards and forwards to carve bits out to make it fit nice and snugly in there. And once again, we shall play the waiting game. Base here, and here is our magic little piece for us to join it all together. Right, 24 hours later, and we have our module. Uh-oh. Bridge comes out. For the life of me, I cannot find the bicycle. I did purchase one. I want to say it might have been through Etsy. I don't have an official account with them, so it's hard for me to trace it. I saw it on the layout. I put it to the side, and unfortunately I can't find it. The important thing about that one is the front forks are curved, and this one it isn't. Of course, we just took a quick drop of paint, did the saddle, a little bit of chrome work around the mud guards and the cranks and the stem.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. One completed custom roadway with a footpath, sidewalk, or whatever you'd like to call this on the side here. I'm exceptionally happy with how this did turn up. I am with so many of my little projects that I've been up to here, but what I really do like about this is it's certainly an area I had really never thought, if you asked me this 10, 20 years ago, I'd ever be getting involved with trying to do something from absolute scratch. And as you saw with a few little projects we've been working on, of course they're not on par with the likes of Boulder Creek Railroad or Black Magic modeling or any of that type of stuff. But the whole idea is it's taking the average person like me, and I'm diving into it with absolutely no skills or experience whatsoever. And I just highly encourage my audience to jump on board and give this stuff a try. It's cheap enough to do. I mean, it's all just materials we have anyway, and you can yield some really good results without needing any technical ability whatsoever. So the work will keep carrying on as we push along over to that viaduct, and we're working on our disused section. So expect to see a bit more. Of course, we've got a few other little interesting videos coming up and some big surprises coming up toward the festive season of 2023. In the meantime, stay safe. Thanks again, girls and boys, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll see you in the next one. Toodles!